And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 154. We're coming at you on a Tuesday evening, which means it's Bloom Board time, the final first half recap position, starting pitcher tonight, 80 pitchers on the list. Not going to cover them all, of course. We got some news as well for you and our normal witty banter that you guys come to love on this show. But before we get to that, you can follow me on Twitter at BDN. Check the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at Ryan BHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
How can we not both be great when it's Luis Rengifo Day, when the mascot is back with I think a 2-run single early in the game tonight.
2-run single early in the game, yep. That was nice.
Against the hapless Seattle Mariners. But no, mascot's back, so I'm happy. I just messaging you privately have both quit DFS and unretired from DFS in the same evening tonight. That's maybe a separate thing, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well for a Tuesday. It's been hot as heck out here today, and it's been pretty solid. So fun stuff indeed, and a lot of news to talk about. But let's get at that. Let's talk news because the Giants are looking like the bad news bears now. It's getting worse and worse watching these guys play. So let's talk some news and notes here. J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez heads to the IL with an ankle sprain, collided with the wall in center field on Sunday. X-rays are negative. MRI released a sprain. They're hoping it's minor. It's still kind of one of those things. They're hoping 10 days, but I expect it to be a little bit longer with J-Rod, who's been pretty bad this year for the standards we would expect for J-Rod. So you're not dropping him, but any thoughts on the J-Rod situation?
I mean, it just kind of cements. I remember when we did our mid-year outfield recap over the All-Star break, it was like, well, there's still time for J-Rod to go on one of those patented second half runs and be at least an okay pick in the top 5 from this past draft. And that is now completely out the window. We can officially call, unfortunately, Julio Rodriguez a bust, especially when pretty much the other side of that coin flip in drafts entering the season was Bobby Witt Jr. Like that's salt in the wounds for anyone who took J-Rod around 3rd or 4th or whatever this past March. Lot of changes with the Mariners lineup. We'll get to some of them later, but like I think the big thing is Victor Robles. I mean, you and Ben talked about Robles on your Fab preview on Bench with Bubba earlier this week. The guy has 11 steals. The guy is hitting for a batting average, and the guy is now with Julio Rodriguez on the IL playing center field, and probably most importantly, moved up to second in the lineup since J-Rod has gone out. So Victor Robles, not going to say this is finally that post hype, breakout, whatever, but Victor Robles has a fully green light in Seattle, an offense that needs to do something to generate runs, try and generate runs. Victor Robles could be a pretty, I don't want to even say sneaky because he was talked about a lot and picked up a good amount this past Sunday, but that's I think the biggest benefactor to Julio leaving is Victor Robles, who already had playing time, but now gets even more of that playing time, plus hitting second in the lineup.
Yep, Victor Robles should benefit while J-Rod is out. The other thing is, though, with the struggles of this offense, do we see Andy Rosarena? Do we see Jazz Chisholm? There's a lot of moving parts that could come into that outfield as well that could derail Victor Robles. But for now, it's Robles time, and somewhere DVR is sipping on an IPA and smiling. So that's very good. Before we get farther in the chat here, Michael Cicchini, regular listener of the show, Bubba, the Law Dog. Yes, Lawrence Butler, near cycle on Tuesday nights.
Bubba, police officer or something.
No, it's been absolutely awesome.
Wyatt Earp over here.
Get stuff done. So that's been pretty fun indeed.
Yes, that's been one of your better calls over the last couple of weeks. There have been a few, but Lawrence Butler, he's been awesome.
That's what I'm going to take to the grave for this season. I don't care if he struggles for 2 months to finish the year. It's been a heck of a run for a few fab dollars right about now. All right. A sad one on Sunday. Got a cool cast. Don't know if anybody noticed it, but Ozzie Albies goes to the IL with a broken wrist, out 8 weeks, got casted up with little puppy paws on it. It's pretty cool. Give him some credit. But Ozzie Albies out 8 weeks. I dropped him everywhere. I don't have IL spots, basically. So NFBC, gone. Because, again, we have like 10 weeks left. That kind of ruins things, folks. I guess the takeaway here for now is Nacho Alvarez Jr. Like, if they're not doing a bunch of Nacho merchandise. I don't know what they're doing with this Nacho Libre for those that don't understand that. What are your thoughts on this, though? Because Alvarez was one of their top infield prospects for the Braves, hitting pretty well this year at AAA.
Hitting pretty well. And I think most importantly, for fantasy purposes, we have been assured, for as much as we can trust that the Nacho Man will not only play every day as the second baseman in Atlanta, but also, and so far, hitting near the top of that lineup, which isn't like, I think I still need to recalibrate. The Atlanta lineup isn't what it was, but it's still hitting second every day in a pretty good lineup for someone where that type of skill set, it helps that guy the most. Where Nacho is at least from the scouting reports, like has a very good plate approach, good hit tool, some burgeoning power. Like I think 7 home runs in 27 games, something like that in AAA this year. But at least our HQ scouting report doesn't really like the power long term. So I think for now, like you're going to get a guy that's going to rack up plate appearances, probably hit for a good batting average, thus score some runs and get some RBI. We'll see what the homers and steals do. But yeah, the Nacho Man, Nacho Alvarez, is absolutely addable in Fab this coming week, which is probably where he's eligible the most. Like I don't think, depending on your league, like you could have picked him up last Sunday, but he wasn't officially called up until Monday. So we got a whole free look for an entire week here.
I know the prospect guy / Braves fan Scott White in our Tout Wars League added him for triple digits this past Sunday. Because Albies was already out before that, and I told you, there was no way I was making on Roto Fab moves from my phone, so that was not happening on Sunday. I made a few NFBC moves from the phone.
Did you put in for a rebate for Albies?
I have to wait till next week. I'm just gonna. I might just IL him. It's unlimited ILs. I'll take the last 2 weeks he comes back. But
yeah, that's true. That's true. Because actually, it's an interesting. I mean, I guess for folks that don't know like the tout rules, but maybe this applies elsewhere. Like if someone's out for the year or whatever, if you cut them due to injury, you can get Fab back, but you can't pick them back up. So in the Albies equation, like yes, if you have unlimited IL, you IL them. If there's no IL, you drop them. But in tout, you kind of do have a decision to make. Is like, do you want to drop them and you have to get on Roto to do that. Do you want to drop them and get some Fab money back, or take your chances last 2-3 weeks of the season, assuming Albies comes back? So I think we know where you're going to lean there.
Yeah, apparently Joe Arico likes to do tout Fab on his phone, and he hates himself every week for it. So, brother, use that computer.
I might change that process there.
Yeah, it's you got 10 weeks to fix that thing. Change that, my friend. It is kind of interesting. Like Michael Cicchini mentioned it, and I was thinking it while you were talking about Nacho batting second. We're almost at the end of July. Preseason, the Braves had I think, was it 5 guys drafted in the top 30 or so, give or take, something like that. Right now, you have Kelenic leading off, Nacho hitting second, like Travis d'Arnaud hitting cleanup.
Yep.
Like this is the team we have right now. It's pretty wild in the fantasy world and real life world if you're a Braves fan when it comes to this team that still is in the playoff hunt. Like they're not out of it, but they have another problem on their hands here, and that's Max Fried, who went to the IL with left elbow neuritis. It's a nerve issue in his elbow. The reports, the MRI said it wasn't a nerve that's associated with any muscles in the throwing arm, which is, I guess, a positive in that regard. So it's now just, heal the nerve and hopefully things get better. But I don't know. Like they say, get on your nerve and stuff like that. Nerves probably heal on their own accord is the best way I'd say it. And they're calling up Alan Winans to pitch a part of the doubleheader on Wednesday. So that could be an option. Dylan Dodd could be an option. We've done this dance a few times this year already, Ryan.
Yes, we've done the Dylan Dodd dance, and that it has not ended well. Max Fried thing, like I think he had a forearm issue last year. I don't know if this is, I think missed a good amount of time last year. Yeah, he was on the IL over 100 days, strained forearm. So not the best news. I don't really know what neuritis is. Is there an actual timetable for Fried? Because that's the question: is do you drop him?
Nothing yet.
I think he is close to droppable in a lot of leagues, especially because honestly the results have been there for Fried, but lately the skills kind of haven't been, and maybe that is kind of the start of the injury taking place, but it hasn't been as great lately for Max Fried.
Yep, 100% with you there. If I'm waiting for more news before I drop, but I'm very close to being there with you. It's something I agree on for sure. Adam Lee in the chat, tell me about it. In my 12 team, I went Strider in the first and Harris in the fourth. Oh, and Murphy in the 11th. I cut them all. Yeah, that's Trust me.
I'm with you, Adam. My biggest league, I took Strider in the first and Michael Harris in the third. So it's been fun.
And when it comes to like underdog, for instance, a lot of those first picks, you got Acuna, and you could wrap it around with like an Albies and Ozuna on the back, and you're thinking you had the best team on the planet. And trust me, I had a few of those. Not so much right now. River Ryan of the Los Angeles Dodgers is the benefactor of James Paxton getting DFA'd by the Dodgers. Like Paxton's numbers, not great. He had a Sierra over 5, not a lot of strikeouts, but he made every start. He's made 18 starts. Like that's a big plus. River Ryan made his debut on Monday night against the Giants. Looked good. Had some control issues, but looked good overall. He's slated to stay in the rotation for now. But you got Kershaw coming back this week on Thursday. Bobby Miller's making at least one more start in AAA before he returns. And then you got Walker Buehler as well eventually coming back. So we'll see what happens. But for now, what are your thoughts on River Ryan?
Probably out of these new Dodger prospects that have come up recently, River Ryan, Landon Knack, and Justin Wroblewski. Like River Ryan's the best prospect long term out of those three. I don't know. I mean, Landon Knack pitched pretty well against your Giants this evening, so probably earns another start there, especially while we wait for Bobby Miller, who I don't even know if it's another just one start for Bobby
they're saying
Miller.
One. I think he's got to perform before he comes back. Like perform well.
And same with Buehler. Like he's just kind of throwing bullpens. They have no real plan or timetable for him. So River Ryan, despite the two first name thing, one of the names is pretty good, but it's a competition between River Ryan, Wroblewski, and Knack, like long term. But I think as long as you get a couple more turns in the rotation, I would take River Ryan over Knack or Wroblewski, just because the prospects folks like him. There hasn't been like a whole lot of high minors experience for River Ryan, but he is, I think, 25, almost 26 years old.
Yep.
So he's somewhat developed, and the prospect folks like him, then that's who I'm going to take a shot with. But I think performance on the field is going to dictate who sticks in the rotation the next few starts.
And he got a late start to the year because he was dealing with his a shoulder injury. So that's been kind of why we haven't seen River Ryan yet. But he had 16 innings in the minors, made the 5 innings on Monday. But last year, between AA and AAA, threw about 104 innings. So that gives him a good cushion to get you to the finish line this year if he can keep the shoulder intact. So I'm with you on that one. JP Crawford, broken pinky for the Seattle Mariners, but it couldn't get worse in Seattle. No timetable here. I've seen this year anywhere from the minimum 10 days to a couple weeks with the pinky. Just depends on how long it takes the bone to heal, essentially. Side note, JP Crawford's been horrible of late as well, so that has not really helped out at all. Yeah. But what's your thoughts on this situation? Because right now it looks like Dylan Moore time back in Seattle.
It is, and I'm excited for that. Like honestly, from a fantasy aspect, there's more fantasy juice to extract from Dylan Moore than there is JP Crawford. Dylan Moore kind of qualifies everywhere. There's a low batting average. There's a high strikeout rate. He's like a 30% strikeout rate throughout his career and only hitting 208 this season. But Dylan Moore can hit for power, and he's got a full green light, just like Victor Robles in Seattle, and he makes pretty good use of it. 85% success rate for Dylan Moore on 17 steals so far this season. So Dylan Moore I think will be the everyday shortstop. He was the last time JP Crawford was on the IL. And so might even lead off against lefties. Like it might be a Dylan Moore, Victor Robles 1 and 2 against lefties. But hey, we'll get steals out of it.
What year is this?
I know. So that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is, like the Mariners, just from a streaming aspect, as if the Mariners weren't easy to stream against before losing JP Crawford. And yes, he's been bad, but at least he's an OBP guy, very patient hitter, can kind of wear pitchers down, get that pitch count up, and then no more Julio. Like, dude, this lineup is just, it is god awful. So any kind of streaming opportunity against the Mariners over these last 2 months, let's see what they do with the trade deadline. But I think it's Chicago White Sox, Road Rockies territory. That it's that bad of a lineup.
Yeah, they strike out basically over 30% versus lefties and righties now. It's gotten to that level of late. Jose Soriano over 7 innings, 5 Ks, 1 run on Tuesday night. Tyler Anderson looked like a Cy Young pitcher against them on Monday. So, yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. So, start him if you got him against the Angels or the Mariners these upcoming days. Ryan Pepio, this was a weird one. Got put on the IL on Sunday with an infection in his leg. He was in the hospital in New York on Saturday. Apparently, he boarded the plane after the All-Star break with like swelling in his leg. Took him to the hospital. It was an infection. They're basically saying once he got the infection under control, he's going to fly back to Tampa Bay, which I believe he has already. And then it's just a matter of, he's healing up the scars, basically. So they're assuming he'll be back at the end of the 15-day IL for pitchers. Keep an eye on that one. But what I will say is Sean Armstrong opened on Tuesday. Tyler Alexander was recalled through 3 innings and got the win. It's Tampa. Have we heard of this before? So I'm not saying like run to go get a Tyler Alexander, but something to keep an eye on. They do face the Reds at home in Alexander's next potential start in this situation. So that's all I kind of see out of this one.
I guess Tyler Alexander, I was about to like smash you for even speaking positively about Tyler Alexander. He hasn't been that 21% K to walk last year with Detroit, 14 this year. Okay. I'll kind of give it to you. If anyone is in that piggyback role, that is always good for wins. And may even stay in the rotation because I mean there are trade wins are swirling around Zach Eflin.
Yep.
Right now in Tampa. So Tyler Alexander could stick. If you're in like really deep leagues or just kind of looking up to see who they had in the minors pitching wise, Ian Seymour is pitching extremely well, albeit in AA, but this is someone who is a 25-year-old. Maybe he gets a look in August, September. Again, like AL only type of stash here, but Ian Seymour is at least someone who, if the Rays decimate their MLB rotation, could have some value in September.
That would be one to keep your eye on. And you'd imagine they'll probably get someone with a pulse and return in some trade, not like an Aaron Civale or anything, but somebody back on one of their deals because Shane Baz isn't going deep in games right now yet either. So they're doing the Rays thing. They're taxing the pitching staff these days in the bullpen. So see how that goes. Reese Olson to the IL with a right shoulder strain. On Tuesday, though, the Tigers said it really is not as bad as they anticipated. Still no timetable to return. It's Reese Olson in the shoulder, so I'm still kind of worried in those scenarios. If you go to roster resource, the starting rotation for the Tigers is Tariq Skubal, Jack Flaherty, and Kiter Montero. And Skubal and Flaherty are rumored to be traded in the next week, so keep that in mind. It's a bloodbath when it comes to starting pitching. Casey Mize is supposed to be rehabbing any day now, so keep that in mind. But this is a rough one, Ryan.
It is, and we can maybe squint and have hope that like Jackson Jobe makes an appearance later this year. But I'm kind of hedging that they hold off until next year. I mean, what does Detroit have to play for going down the street? Do you think they actually trade Skubal? Like, I think they'll trade Flaherty. I'd be shocked if they traded Skubal.
I think because it's a team in Detroit that their offense is getting better, but they still are missing some pieces. It's one of those, if you can trade a Skubal now, because Baltimore can do it and Baltimore needs it. So it makes sense. If you can get 3 or 4 prospects, like get a Cade Povich to pitch, get a couple of the bats, like it makes sense in the long term for Detroit. I just don't know if they will because Baltimore, they have too many options. We've seen it all year. They can't call these kids up. So do with the next best thing. Baltimore has not had a person we can call an ace since I can remember. It's been a long time. So I think it makes sense for a team like the Orioles.
Yeah, Corbin Burnes just got offended there, but
okay, an ace that can strike people out.
Yeah, man, we'll get to old Burnes here in a minute.
Oh, trust me, Burnes is one of my better pitchers on like my best OC team, so I get it. I'm not doing him justice, but it's not the ace like we used to see Corbin Burnes.
I hear you, Baltimore.
He's
that
more
would
Logan
be a
Webb,
fit, but who knows?
It's more Logan Webb.
Yeah, Adam in the chat says if they do deal Skubal, I could see Jackson Jobe coming up simply to placate angry fans.
No, Detroit doesn't care about angry fans.
I don't think they care though. Yeah,
they don't. The biggest thing, if you want to see Jackson Jobe this year, is look at when you want to talk about angry fans. Max Meyer is still in AAA for Miami. Like these teams don't care. That's the biggest thing you need to remember. For Jobe, I'd basically see when do the Tigers gain the most out of his long term, options and go from there.
Yeah, of course, that's the name of the game.
Yep. Jacob Wilson, this didn't last long. Everyone was all pumped when Jacob Wilson got recalled from AAA to join the Oakland Athletics, got a single, then pulled his hamstring, goes to the IL, and he's going to be out for quite a while, that was the terminology used by the Oakland Athletics. So not a whole lot here besides just bummer, I guess.
Yeah, that's all I got. I had to. I mean, the only this is an analysis. I had to do a late swap on the photo cover of my HQ Fab article because it was Jacob Wilson. So poor me, extra
Yep.
work. But
Yep.
no,
Abraham Toro got called up and took his spot. So there you go.
right. And like, yeah, no, it's the A's. It's the A's. Although they are hitting, the replacement for Jacob Wilson's not going to hit.
Yep. We'll see how that goes. And then we kind of mentioned earlier another Mariners thing here. I kind of should have just probably put them all together, but here we are. Ty France was officially DFA'd on Tuesday, officially cleared waivers, not going to report to minor leagues. Tyler Locklear got called up. He's supposed to be the regular there. Jason Vossler got called up the day before Tyler Locklear, and he's actually hit better than Locklear this year at AAA. Big age gap. Vossler's 30, so keep that in mind. But it's just an interesting situation. But right now, Locklear looks to be the guy. But what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I mean, to me, it's still in a void. Vossler's going to platoon. I think this is kind of a line change team.
Yep.
Not quite in terms of like quality with the Twins, but just in terms of volume. Locklear's the better long-term play, but over the final 2 months, who knows? And the lineup's so bad anyway that just, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Awesome to stream against, and I don't think you want much part of guys in this lineup right now, especially towards the bottom where Locklear and Vossler are residing at the moment.
Yep, it's rough go in the streets of Seattle these days. But what isn't rough? Reviewing starting pitchers, Ryan. So let's
that
wrap
could
up.
be rough. That could be rough. As the Pablo Lopez guy, this actually might be extremely rough.
We're gonna make it fun around here. So why don't you let everybody know what we're doing? It's our final position recap of the first half, and we have up to 80 starting pitchers. So let them know.
Yeah, so this is what we're looking at here. It's the top 40 drafted by ADP in March. So we won't see, for example, a Spencer Strider and Garrett Cole if you drafted in whatever January, February, or in August, like a couple of degenerates that we are. Those guys would be up there, but no, it's the same kind of deal. We've got the ordered by ADP, and then we've got based on the Fangraphs Player Rater where these starting pitchers are through Tuesday or through Monday, I guess, where they sit both overall and at the position. So I will let you kind of dictate how deep we go, what we cover, but we're looking at the top 40 now. We'll do the next 40 after this.
You got it. Let's start with the top 40 here. And hey, I'll give you the floor here because you told me I'm wrong. But the top pitcher taken off the board here was Corbin Burnes. Obviously, this is like after Shohei Ohtani's injuries and all those other things took place. But Corbin Burnes, his first pitcher, tied with Zach Wheeler off the board. Corbin Burnes is 23rd overall, 6th at the position. So like I said, he's been very good for fantasy. He's just not that dominating guy like he was in years past. So that's kind of where I was sitting on that one.
I'll give you that. If we have a pick to knit, it's a 23% strikeout rate.
Yes.
For Corbin Burnes. My two rebuttals to that is that's a 23% K rate over a ton of innings so far, 124 innings. So the actual volume of strikeouts isn't that bad. And just from a going forward aspect, Corbin Burnes actually missing more bats than he was last year when he had a 26% K rate. So still missing a ton of bats, just not getting Ks for it. If before the season you took Corbin Burnes and we were sitting here in late July saying he's the number 6 starting pitcher, number 23 overall, I would make that pick 10 times out of 10. So, and same with Zach Wheeler, who's next. Like those were the top 2 off the board, both at 5 and 6 at the position. Like that's what you want. That's absolutely what you want.
100%. We'll skip over Zach Wheeler because you pretty much nailed it there. Luis Castillo, though, is a fun one. He was the 3rd pitcher off the board. Overall, he's 120th. He's 38th at the position. If you look at Castillo's season, he was pretty rough to start the year. Then he had like a month and a half being good, then about a 4-start rough patch, and then he's getting good again here towards the end. Overall, though, he's probably doing enough. You took him early, so it's kind of a bummer, but still pretty solid in the end.
Pretty solid. I still think you're disappointed if you took Castillo, but it hasn't been Pablo Lopesian. which
Yes.
if you're nice to me, we'll skip over. But
We're going
if
to. I
not, I'll
told you
talk
before the
about
show.
it.
We
But
would.
actually,
You're the one that keeps
big
bringing them up. You're the one that keeps bringing them up. Just gonna point that out.
yeah, I'm obviously like extremely mortified,
Got
terrified
PTSD.
by this.
You saw his name, and you're just like having flashbacks
I
already.
just started shaking. I'm like, oh, what's that red patch in
Did you guys
the
hear that
midst of
can open
green?
earlier? Like, Bloomfield doesn't open cans on the show.
If you really want to just get to me, if we're at First Pitch Arizona or something, just start yelling Pablo Lopez, and I'll just start convulsing. Castillo, Luis Castillo is who we're talking about. This is someone who kind of reinvented himself recently in his career. He started with a really good changeup and has since gone more fastball slider. The fastball entering the season was one of the best pitches in baseball. That has deteriorated both in terms of velocity. It's down a full tick, 95 versus 96 last year miles an hour, and missing a lot fewer bats with the fastball, and he throws it almost half the time. So that's really been the reason why Luis Castillo's strikeout rate is down. Like the ratios are fine. The volume's been there. But you tack on kind of a lower K rate with not getting any run support. I mean, we've talked too much already about the Mariners and how they can't hit. That all kind of adds up to just kind of a mediocre season, not something you're looking from the number 3 starting pitcher overall to be barely inside the top 40 right now.
Yep, I completely agree. Going to skip through a few here and go to Tyler Glasnow, because this was a very polarizing name on draft day. Is he going to stay healthy? How many innings he's going to pitch? He's really dominant. If he pitches 120 innings, he could be the best. All of these conversations were out there. And right now, through the first half of the season, Glasnow is 31st overall, 8th at the starting pitching position. And Glasnow has been solid. You know, he's got the back injuries, but he's supposed to come back and pitch on Wednesday against the Giants. So when you're probably listening to this show, he's made 18 starts, 109 innings, 143 strikeouts with a 3.47 ERA, a 2.72 SIERA, and a beautiful near 27% K to walk. So Glasnow has been outstanding. Honestly, as a Glasnow, someone's rostering Tyler Glasnow, I was not hurt by the it kind of felt phantomy at the time when it went down. We talked about that.
Yeah,
it looked like there might,
yeah,
it kind of feels that way. And as like someone that's rostered him and he's had those injuries in the past, I'm like, you know what? Give him a week and a half to just go chill. I'm cool with this and bring him back. And so far, so good. We'll see how he pitches on Wednesday.
Honestly, if anything, if you would have told me Tyler Glasnow has 110 innings pitched by the All-Star break, I almost think like he should be better than 8th, because you brought up the SIERA. Like Tyler Glasnow only has, on the quote unquote best team in baseball, he only has 8 wins, and he has a 3.47 ERA. Like the ERA hasn't been that. He's had a couple bad starts where that blows it up, but only having 8 wins on the Dodgers, like Glasnow being a top 10 guy, is pretty much all whip and strikeouts. And it's a massive strikeout total. It's an elite whip. And I would argue this could be even better. Like you mentioned the SIERA at HQ, our expected ERA is a 2.72 for Tyler Glasnow. So it's been some bad home run luck. It's been some left on base problems, but nothing that is worrisome. I think Tyler Glasnow is a top 3 starting pitcher rest of the season.
Yep, as long as he's healthy, I'm 100% with you on that one. Everything's great under the hood, so I'm with you on that. Tariq Skubal, we've talked about him a ton. Did you have anything else you want to add? Like, he is the number 1 pitcher in fantasy baseball at the All-Star break. He's been amazing.
Nope, prove me wrong. I mean, not prove me wrong, but I would say I wanted to see it over a full season before I took Tariq Skubal. I wanted to see him handle a full workload, and I guess he technically hasn't done that yet, but he seems well on his way to be able to do that. So we have now seen Tariq Skubal do it, and we will have to pay accordingly in 2025 draft. So kudos to anyone who, to those of you out there who went with Skubal. It's been incredible.
Yeah, we'll skip over Gossman. I think similar to your Lopez, I've talked about him plenty, and Kevin, my 2 cents on that. It's been rough. He's a SP 2 or 3 in fantasy now, probably inching towards the 3 of a situation there. And not an auto start, so you can sit him. I do that often these days. Freddie Peralta, though, this one stood out to me. 46th at the position for Freddie Peralta, who we waxed poetically about quite a bit on this show, and he's been on a lot of Bloom boards throughout our tenure of this show, not just this season. But Freddie Peralta has made 20 starts this year, a 3.88 ERA, a 3.28 SIERA, and a 22% K to walk. So I guess maybe the K to walk's lower than we expect from him, but overall doing great. And I guess what we've also learned from this, 6 wins will drastically hurt your rating.
Yep. So as I bring up P. Lopez again, the sheer mention,
Gosh.
along the lines of Pablo Lopez, the sheer mentioning of the category wins, that also throws me into a freaking. Freddie Peralta has fewer wins. Hector Neris has 8 wins. Freddie Peralta has 6. That's a cool stat. Yeah, I don't know. Freddie Peralta, another 30% strikeout rate. Like, this is kind of what we wanted from him. We didn't want a 3.8 ERA, but again, you look at a lot of the ERA estimators, it's down in low 3s. If anything, like, volume was a concern with Freddie Peralta, and that seems to be assuaged given that he had 165 innings last year, 109 this year, so he's well on his way to eclipsing that. So I mean, not a hit certainly as a top 10 starting pitcher, but I think you can live at least with what we've seen with Freddie Peralta. But yeah, if he had like 10 wins, you'd go from the 46th overall starting pitcher to probably top 20, top 25, something like that. Yep. So much of that is random, out of your control, that it's not really Freddie's fault.
I want to mention Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's 34th in the position, even though he's missed a ton of time and he's likely out for most of the rest of the season. That's how dominant he was while he was there. Just want to throw that out there, that he's 34th on the season. I kind of want to ask your thoughts. I think we've talked about him a few times, but Framber Valdez, he's 69th at the position. And Valdez has had a wild season. He's like either really on, like, the ground ball rate's still very good. We've discussed that. I know we've discussed that part of it, but the dude's got a 3.63 ERA, even though he's had some blow-ups. But of late, it's been like a quality start machine once again. 3.73 Sierra. K to walk's only 12.2% though, so he's not like dominating. He's relying on that ground ball rate quite a bit. So what are your thoughts on Framber Valdez just in general? He's 69th at the position, obviously not a lot of strikeouts, and kind of doing it with the ground ball stuff.
And that really is a case for these elite ground ball rate guys. Like, Framber Valdez, quite honestly, hasn't been good this year. Yeah. Like, he's not throwing strikes. He's at 38% ball percentage, which is really bad. He's not missing bats. The strikeouts are way down from last year, but he has that ground ball rate. That's 61% ground ball rate, and that's really the anchor for this entire skill set. So, yeah, it's just a fascinating player. Like, if you have that 60% level type of ground ball rate, it's just such a high floor for where you're at. Now, granted, Framber Valdez, you're probably disappointed if you took him, but that's because the strikeouts haven't been there, and the whiffs haven't been there either, and the control has left him too. So, like, really, everything's kind of gone wrong for Framber. If he didn't have an elite ground ball rate, this would probably be one of the bigger busts in the starting pitcher pool, in my opinion.
Yep, 100% with you on that one. Aaron Nola, he's been great. Even year, if you haven't heard, Ryan. So you got that going for you with Aaron Nola. But let's talk about the 4th overall starting pitcher at the position, 18th overall, period. And that's one Logan Gilbert. Everyone wanted Kirby. Everyone wanted Castillo. Gilbert was still wanted, but 3rd on that list. And he got smacked around thanks to the mascot on Tuesday. But coming into Tuesday, 2.79 ERA over 20 starts, 3.48 Sierra, 19 on basically 20% K to walk, and an innings eating machine for the Seattle Mariners. One of the top 3 innings in baseball. It's like it rotates between Lugo, Gilbert, and Webb these days. Those guys are kind of running the show. So what's your thoughts on what we've seen from Gilbert? 4th overall at the position. And it's like I acknowledge that he's been good. I just kind of overlook him because it's just steadily consistent, but not dominant, it feels like.
And I feel like Gilbert is good enough to be dominant. So the strikeouts have kind of been there. 25% strikeout rate is like right around league average, but he misses a ton of bats. 14% swinging strike is borderline excellent elite territory. And Logan Gilbert, the big thing with him was that split finger last year that kind of took everyone by storm. He has kept that up, missing a ton of bats with the split finger, throwing about 15% of the time. But the big change with Logan Gilbert is basically fewer 4-seamers and more cutters. And the cutter is a much better pitch in terms of missed bats, throws it for strikes, yada, yada, than the 4-seamer. So this is someone who's actually made quite a bit of changes to his pitch mix. We just haven't seen it like come together in terms of the K rate. But once it does, to what you were just saying, Bubba, everything else is here for Logan Gilbert, I think, to be a top 10 starting pitcher, borderline top 5 next year. Again, the volume is absolutely 132 innings, man, plus whatever he threw today. I hate to bring up wins again, but he is on the Mariners, so that's probably why he's still number 4 despite being on the Mariners, which is pretty wild. So Logan Gilbert, man, it is funny, like compared to George Kirby. Was Kirby even on this list?
Yeah, he was up there. He's the 4th pitcher drafted.
Oh, Jesus. He was the 4th pitcher drafted. Wow.
Yeah.
Still's been good.
Right in front of Pablo Lopez. You didn't see him?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. No, again, I saw Lopez and just went blind. So Logan Gilbert, that's impressive. Anyone who had a hot take of Gilbert over Kirby or Castillo in draft season, I'm sure they were there. That's been rewarded.
Been very rewarded for sure. Grayson Rodriguez, this is a fun one because, again, a guy that doesn't feel like he's been overly dominant this year. He's 31st at the position, and that is in large, real quick, yeah, the Michael Cicchini said Gilbert's number 1 in whip over a ton of volume, so that's really impressive and great for your fantasy teams. But Grayson Rodriguez is 31st at the position, in large part due to 12 wins on the season. That'll help because it's a 3.83 ERA, it's a 3.52 Sierra, and it's a 20% K to walk. So it's not like it's overwhelming stuff there from Grayson Rodriguez, but 12 wins because he plays for the Orioles. So just think about it this way. If Skubal or Flaherty ends up in Baltimore, that could change a whole world of win situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely could. Or not. I mean, it could be the Tyler Glasnow thing where you're still on a good team and still doesn't happen. So
true.
I don't know. Grayson Rodriguez, we kind of stuck our necks out, folks that were drafting him where he was going in ADP. We stuck our necks out saying the second half of Grayson Rodriguez that we saw in 2023 is the version that we're going to see going forward. And it has turned out, in fact, to be exactly that. Like, the dude looks awesome. 14%. You look at this, the swinging strike, 14%, 34% ball rate. Like, everything looks really good for Grayson Rodriguez. Actually, I think pitching better than the 3.83 ERA would lead us to think. So a very nice step forward, being able to hold the second half gains of 2023, carry that forward so far into the entire 2024 season for Grayson.
Yep, not too shabby there. Last one here in the top 20 that I want to discuss is Zach Eflin, because you mentioned he's got rumored to be traded potentially from Tampa Bay. And this is a guy that a lot of people liked, especially as like a stable SP2 type option there. He's 90th at the position this year, 5 wins, so that could have something. But 4.14 ERA, not ideal, but he does have a 3.92 Sierra, so a little better. K to walk 16%. So it feels like it to me. It's just this is the Zach Eflin experience, but I think we were kind of spoiled by a better Zach Eflin last year.
Oh, we absolutely were, man. 27% strikeout rate last year for Zach Eflin. I mean, that's borderline elite. That has gone all the way back down to 19% this year. Not the ground ball guy that Zach Eflin is or was last season either. Really, all Zach Eflin has to fall back on right now is elite control, which is always going to lead to a good whip. But I don't know, man. For all the whispers out there that the Rays are these pitching gurus, Zach Eflin has taken a pretty big step back in in this full season with the Rays, and Aaron Savali, who looked really good with the Rays down the stretch in the second half last season, has taken a full step back as well. Then again, you have Taj Bradley taking a leap forward, so who the hell knows? But it kind of goes to show, like, full blind faith in an organization doesn't always work out. We're seeing that with Eflin and Savali this year.
Yep, 100% there. We'll go 21 to 40 and just kind of skip around here. Like Joe Ryan's 23rd. Cole Reagan's is 22nd. That's your 21st and 22nd pitchers off the board. So, and Reagan's had a lot of people questioning, could he do it again type thing, workload. So that's cool to see. But I want to jump to the 24th pitcher off the board here. That is one Dylan Cease, a pitcher that you and I have both been not over the moon with because of control issues in the past. He's the 50th overall player, the 12th at the position this year. And we look at Dylan Cease, it's a 3.76 ERA, but just wait, a 3.01 Sierra, which is outstanding, and a 25% K to walk because he's only walking 7.5% of the batters he's facing. He's been of late 6+ innings pretty regularly and just a strikeout machine. Cease looks great. I'll take the L on this one. I don't even care what the last few months are. Like, he's been outstanding. What are your thoughts on the 12th pitcher in the first half?
Leads the majors in strikeouts, which that'll do with 159. Actually, it's kind of crazy. Garrett Crochet is number 2 in strikeouts, and
Man,
I don't know how that's possible, but it is. And Cole Reagans, which you just talk about, but number 3, Cole Reagans in strikeouts, so that's why he is up there. But yeah, I'll take the L on Dylan Cease as well. He hasn't been like, the skills haven't been this good. He's still, like, a lot of the estimators are mid to high 3s ERA pitcher, but just that sheer volume of strikeouts has led to a good whip, and the walk rate has somewhat improved. It's basically been at 10% each of the last 3 seasons. That's now down to 7-8%, which, when you pile that on with all those strikeouts, you kind of quickly see why. How many wins does Dylan Cease have?
9.
Okay.
9.
So could be a little better because the Padres are decent.
The Padres are that team we joke about all the time. Like, their numbers look great on paper. I'm like, how are they there? It's like no one stands out to you. They're a team. That's the best way I can say it. There's the team. And Tatis might be back in a couple weeks, so have fun there. All right, we'll go down the list here. Chris Sale's been great. Don't think we have a lot to add to that. Kind of like the school of the next, but you did get him at pick 25, 80th overall, 25th pitcher out the board, so that's pretty good stuff there. Justin Steele's getting healthy and looking better, so that could improve by season's end. Let's hit on Bailey Ober. He's 33rd at the position, 101st overall. And this is a pitcher that a lot of people were very excited for come draft season, just because kind of the peripherals and everything we saw last year. And when it comes to Ober, he's got the 4.04 ERA this season, but a 3.6 Sierra to go with a 20% K to walk, which is always very, very nice. So what are we thinking here on Bailey Ober? Because he's been pretty good. Not Joe Ryan good, but pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's someone who we just look at the ERA and say, he hasn't. You think he may not have been that great, but it's the whip. It's a 106 whip. It's a good number of strikeouts. It's 107 innings of doing that. 110 Ks. That'll work, and then 9 wins. So I think if you took Bailey Ober where he was going, you basically have your value back, and that's, I think, when you're drafting an SP2, SP3. That's kind of what you want. If you can kind of make par on your first 3 starters and try and hit some of these later guys, and you've got yourself a staff. So, yeah, I think it's been a solid year for Bailey Ober.
Yeah, Tanner Bybee, Michael King, they've been solid. In between there is Hunter Brown, though. Wanted to hit on this one. His ADP was 118. He's 291 overall, 89th at the starting pitching position. And that's in large part due to like the first 8 starts of the year, because he got absolutely shellacked. That's been well documented, but he's been so good of late outside of 1 start against Minnesota, which they can do that to you, that Brown has lowered his season ERA to 4.14. He has a 3.88 Sierra and a 15.5% K to walk. So you'd want that to obviously be higher in the grand scheme of things, but he's become a much better pitcher over the last, say, 2.5 months of the season. What are your thoughts on Brown, though? Because the 89 ranking is deceiving because of the first 8 starts where it was so bad.
Yeah, man. So Hunter Brown's last few starts, earned runs 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 7. So it's that blow up that you talked about at Minnesota, 2, and then 0. Like,
he's been
unreal. Good. And we do have that beer bet, rest of season ERA, Pablo Lopez versus Hunter Brown. I think they're both they both had pretty good starts after the All-Star break, so we'll see how we do. But interesting to see Hunter Brown's year-long rank, because also how many teams is Hunter Brown on right now that drafted him? Like, how many teams cut?
Very
Hunter
good
Brown
point.
After
very
that
good
early
point.
Start. So it's probably someone else in your league getting the good side of Hunter Brown, which makes it even worse. So, and yes, there are drops that you regret out there, and Hunter Brown, I'm sure, is one of them.
I just want to mention this quote from Joe Arico out there. He says, "There's only one terrible outcome on this board that isn't injury related. Surely it isn't a Blue Jay, right? That'd be Chris Bassett, who is the 97th starting pitcher off the board here. And he's been healthy all year, folks, and he might get traded soon. So not your problem pretty soon, Joe Arico. I just wanted to highlight your comment there. We'll start skipping a little quicker here to get to the back 40, but Shoto Amanaga still 19th overall, even though he had those hiccups in the middle. He's bounced back really nicely the last 3 or 4 starts. Sonny Gray's 18th, Bryce Miller 24th, Hunter Green 20th. I'll give you the option of any of those guys in green there you'd like to discuss.
Just fascinating that Shota Imanaga is the import that's doing better. Although it, we talked about Yamamoto earlier. That's obviously injury related. So a little bit of a sideways thing there. Sonny Gray turned out to be a bargain. It's just funny looking back, like with preseason injuries. Sonny Gray, what was it, was it knee or hamstring? I think it was a hamstring.
It was something unarmed. I drafted so much Sonny Gray because it was amazing.
That has turned out to be awesome. Bryce Miller returning full value. Hunter Green, man.
Yes,
the roller coaster continues, but good God, he has been, especially lately, just
amazing,
unbelievable. And we've always I didn't draft Hunter Green just because I didn't know what we'd get in terms of the walk rate. And I still don't think we're out of the woods with that, but he just strikes out so many. I mean, even in this run he's been on with 2.51 ERA over his last 5 starts, Hunter Green still has a 9% walk rate. He's still walking guys, but man, when Hunter Green has it working, there are few better pitchers in baseball.
It's pretty crazy looking at Hunter Green's splits, because that's always the thing we talk about, the home road. He's got the home road splits with a 3.94 ERA at home, which in reality I think we'd sign up for right now with that, because it's a 2.19 ERA on the road. He has a better K to walk at home than on the road. But if you look at the xFIPs, because I don't have the Sierras on the splits here, home 4.15 xFIP, road 4.19. He's almost in the grand scheme of things, the same pitcher home and away this year. He's just been more unlucky, probably because of the ballpark. That's part of the thing. But it's been pretty interesting to see how that's turned out with Hunter Green. That's one of those I'll kind of take the L on that one, that's for sure, because I was pretty much just crossing him off, saying I don't want to deal with it. And he's been be able to get those strikeouts be pretty nice right now. So
one last thing before we go to the other board, just a macro level look at this. While you were talking about Hunter Green, I was kind of looking at the top 20 versus the next 20. It's interesting. The top 20 starting pitchers, out of those 28 have been top 30 so far in terms of ratings. The next 20, so pitchers drafted 21 through 40, there have been 10 of those guys, so half of them have finished in the top 30. So you could make the argument for the perhaps second year in a row that the next 20 have been just as good as the top 20 in fantasy. And
going back to our first half other positions, that allows you to take one of those shortstops early and maybe one of the other positions, and then go get pitchers in rounds 3-4, something like that, maybe, or 4-5 or whatever type deal, and still be sitting pretty on this situation. And like you said, it's kind of the second year we've seen this take place. So again, it changes year to year, but the fact that we've seen it again is pretty interesting for sure.
And it does. So that's always arbitrary number too, because you could push back to what I just said and say, hey, there have been more top 10 seasons in the top 20. You do have Corbin Burnes, you have Wheeler, you have Skubal, and you have Logan Gilbert. All have been absolutely dominant. You probably throw Glasnow into that equation as well, where really in the next 20, you've got Chris Sale and Dylan Cease, who have been truly dominant. But it's all just kind of how you slice the numbers. But I just thought that was interesting. There have been a good number of hits in that next 20 this year.
Yep, most definitely. It's very, very interesting. But when you pull up the chart for 41 through 80, not very many hits. So going to go off that. Given we're comparing it to the top 40. So in reality, of where they were drafted, we might have more hits than that. But 41 through 80, things look a little more pink and red compared to the top 40, which you'd expect again.
Looks like some of your steaks, some of your
this looks more like what I cook. Yes, this is more what I cook right here. This is my kind of board. Probably the bottom left corner, Kenta Maeda. Thank you very much. That's where you be relying, my friend. See, I told you, take him out back. See, I told you. It's all making sense, right? It's all
man's a little too rare there for my liking.
I'm more like Walker Bueller area for me on that one. So, but let's get at it here. You Darvish, he's missed a lot of time, might miss the rest of the season. He's still 65th. That's good. But Mitch Keller coming in, hat tip Corbin Young, 40th still at the position. Mitch Keller is eating innings. He's getting the strikeouts once again. It's been a very, very good season for Mitch Keller.
Yeah, and kind of for me a little under the radar, just because like I didn't think he was a top 40 pitcher, but he is. It is that 3.34 ERA. Like the strikeouts have fallen back quite a bit for Mitch Keller, but the volume's always there, and like you said, just the consistency is good. The big thing with Mitch Keller, there was a big improvement in walk rate for Keller last year, and is supported by him throwing more strikes. He has taken that even further down to as it was walk rate each of the last 4 years, 10, 9, 7, and then now 6%. So just kind of again locking in a pretty solid whip.
Yep, you got Nate Eovaldi performing quite well, coming in
at
37th overall. The king of the bloom boards is making magic happen here, and in large part that's due to a beautiful 17.1% K to walk. Obviously, you'd like more, but we'll take it. But a 3.63 Sierra as well has been pretty good there for Nate Eovaldi, and he's getting healthy. It feels like, so that's always a plus.
You do wonder. I mean, the problem with Eovaldi the last few years is that health and him kind of basically dying each of the last few second half. So we'll see how that turns out for him again this year. I don't actually have much for as much. I guess Eovaldi's like the OG of bloom boards. I don't think he came up on a bunch last year, but
he's your guy. He's your guy forever and always, no matter if you draft him or not. Cutter Crawford, he's 29th on the list here, which has been pretty sweet. But let's just get to the guy, Christopher with no H Sanchez, 49th at the position. And this was a fun one for me because I liked him not nearly as much as Ryan. I guess as Ryan's guy, not going to try to claim that situation. But it's like it started out kind of slow, like he wasn't either striking guys out or, doing this or that. But man, as he put together a full season of just really, really good stuff, I just, writing him up a lot for matchups. I would love to see more strikeouts from him.
Yeah, and like actually, it has been a really good year for Sanchez, but like he is only 49th overall at the position, and you're like, how the hell is that possible? It is the lack of strikeouts. Like dude has a 20% strikeout rate. Like that's pretty bad. And thus, I mean, the somewhat downside of having all these ground balls is it's always awesome for your ERA. I just made that point with Framber Valdez, but you're probably going to have just like an okay whip. And so Christopher Sanchez does have that 124 whip with not that many Ks. So that's the reason why like this hasn't been, I don't think like a full breakout for Christopher Sanchez, but I'll still take it. Still take it. Yep. You always take a sub-3 ERA.
Heck yeah, the ratios are great. And again, this is your SP4 probably, so hopefully you got the Ks taken care of early. That is one thing we discussed in the preview for the positions, that what makes these elite pitchers so good is the strikeouts. That's one thing we documented very well going through it. So at this point, you shouldn't be relying on Sanchez to be your strikeout horse, basically. He's not an Eovaldi, so he's doing that in that regard. Brendan Pfaadt is 60th at the position. Just wanted to highlight this real quick. He's been good. Ratios are good, and he's been much better of late. He's limiting the walks, which is great, and the home runs. So I'm hoping for a big second half from Brendan Pfaadt. His last 4 or 5 starts have been really, really good. So I think we're seeing what I was hoping for earlier in the season.
Just quick shout, all-time favorite moment on this podcast is you trying to type Brandon Pfaadt in the Fantrax draft room during Tout Wars.
Apparently, I got to refresh the page to find Brandon Pfaadt.
Just getting so pissed you couldn't find him. And like I remember Britton Allen was in the chat. A bunch of people in the chat were like, "It's PFAA," and that just pissed you off even more. It was great, man.
Well, it was a good moment. That's how we do these live shows. It's for the people. And the best part I'm proud of on that is I actually controlled myself, because people that really know me, if we weren't on camera, there would have been a lot of 4-letter words flying out that thing. So, yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Now we get to a lot of red. Verlander's been hurt. Cortez has had his splits, been horrible on the road. Jordan Montgomery's been hurt. He's been better of late, but he's been hurt. Brian Woo's been hurt, still pitching well. Brian Bale's getting better, but a bad start. Anybody else on this 31 or was it 41 through 60 side of things you'd like to discuss? Because it's a lot of red down here.
It's a lot. And I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring Michael's point in the chat, because I think this is just a great point. I heard this a little bit more early in the season. But Michael in the chat says, when people say, oh, there's so many good starting pitchers late, and we'll get to some of the breakouts next. Michael says, just hope you didn't take Maeda, Brian Bayo, Griffin Canning. To take that thought even further, just kind of looking at this board and seeing kind of the colors here. And I know we're going a little bit more video centric than on the podcast, but like I only see out of this 41 through 80 group, I only see 3 breakouts. I see Seth Lugo, I see Jack Flaherty, I see Paul Skeens. You can make the case maybe like a Cutter Crawford, Christopher Sanchez, whatever. But really, there's only been 3 breakouts in this entire group out of 40. And just kind of looking at all of this, rare steak red that's on the sheet, I would say it's probably half of them have just been awful. And it's even harder when you have an awful starting pitcher versus an awful hitter, because they just do so much damn damage. Your ratios can really set you back. So like that's again so far, and we'll dive deeper into this into the off season, but it's waiting on starting pitching, man. Like you have to really hit the right guys, because more often than not, you're going to get burned. And I think just the colors on this board, I think, drive that home completely.
Yep, I'm with you, because like when you switch over to 61 through 80, like Morton's been whatever. Kikuchi's been actually better than the 125, so you got that going for him. Garrett Cole's been hurt but coming back. Lodolo's been good. That's been a bright spot. That was a guy you liked the value for. But like Mackenzie Gore started great, pitching really bad. Canyon's been horrible. So I'll stop there before we go any farther. But anybody in that top right corner of the chart there between Morton to Canyon that you'd like to discuss, because Lodolo's been good. And Gavin Stone, I'm just not a believer in, but he's been good. I think a lot of that's because he's on the Dodgers. That helps. But helps me hate not like him. But plus, I think he's getting rated higher because of what the Dodgers can help you do. Anybody else on this corner up here?
No, that's the Lodolo thing. He was just a conundrum all draft season, because I was super high on him, then I wasn't, because it sounded like his leg was going to fall off in between bullpen sessions. And it was just bizarre. But no, again, outside of that, like the guys you just listed off, Morton, Kikuchi, Cole, you get a pass. But like, I mean, Louis Varland's been terrible. Gore can't. Like, it's just a lot of bad right here.
And you got Marcus Stroman, who people thought, okay, he won't be great, but he won't crush you. Well, not been great, and maybe not crushed you. Reese Olson was good to be sure, but then you got Seth Lugo, the 11th overall fantasy player, 3rd overall starting pitcher, with an ADP of 263 for Lugo. I liked Lugo a lot this year, not this much. Like I wasn't like locking him into every team. This is just shocking because he helped me a lot last year. And my argument for Lugo was the Royals signed him. People said, "Oh, there's no way you could throw the innings again." They don't care. They have zero care. And we've talked about it, Ryan. Dude's made 21 starts and thrown 138 innings. Like it's nuts. He's accumulating well. So been a great first half. We'll see if the second half continues, but pretty awesome stuff from Seth Lugo.
Pretty awesome stuff. I mean, I still struggle like how much of this is total luck versus just partial luck, but do need to give Lugo some credit. The skills have gotten a lot better the last 2-3 months with Seth Lugo. The skills in April, and this is probably something that's my bias that sticks with me. Seth Lugo had a 149 or 197, excuse me, ERA through April, and expected ERA about 5. So I just had this kind of thing in my head that no, Seth Lugo doesn't deserve this, but he has pitched a lot better May, June, July. Not quite to ace level, but again, doesn't really matter results wise. Like Seth Lugo has more than delivered on where he's at. Quick fact: I put this in my speculator column on Wednesday, just because I'm weird. But Seth Lugo is the only pitcher in baseball who has thrown 9 different pitches 50 plus times. He's thrown 9 different pitches.
50 plus times is I could say, okay, I could see guys throwing 7-8 pitches, but he's throwing them 50 plus times is the crazy part there. Like he's actually it's a part of the arsenal is what it is.
Exactly. Minimum of 50 pitches thrown this season. He has 9. You know who has 8? Chris
yeah,
Bassett. So that just goes to show, like, it doesn't really matter. But it's
so what you're getting at here is old timers trying to reinvent themselves. Just keep regripping balls and seeing where it goes.
Just throw shit and see what happens, man. Sometimes it works if you're Lugo. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
Like that sounds like back in the day playing on the playground, going, okay, this is a palm ball. This is let's just throw the ball and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's hilarious. I would never have guessed Bassett. Like Lugo, I've heard the stories of Bassett. That's funny. Next up, you got James DFA'd Paxton, Braxton Garrett, who's been hurt, John Gray, who that's been a rough go, but pitched well on Tuesday. Sean Manaea has been, to me, worth every penny of this draft cost. Like he's done what you'd want at this point. Like he hasn't broke out, but he's been very, very stable. And then your boy, who I've given you props for every time I can, because I have a lot of shares of Jack Flaherty because of you. He's 47th overall and 11th at the position. So the floor is yours to talk. I would allow a victory lap come June 23rd on Jack Flaherty right now if you wanted to.
Yeah. And again, the damn wins could be even better if Jack Flaherty actually had some wins. For Jack Flaherty to be the number 11 starting pitcher with, I don't know, does he even have 5 at this point?
He's gotten most of them lately too.
Like, he probably does. He probably does have a decent chunk now. 7. He's all the way up to 7. But like, imagine if that was 10 or 11 or 12 if you're Seth Lugo. But total breakout for Jack Flaherty. I will pat myself on the back, given the sheer outrage when I mentioned his name outside the top 250 ADP before the season. I thought
I got a fun one for you real quick. So the 7 wins came in his last 9 starts.
Oh, what?
I remember we talked about him a while back. He had 0 wins, and we were all ticked off.
And same with Reese Olson. I remember both
Reese
those
Olson
guys
had 0 wins, and now Flaherty's got 7, but they're in his last 9 starts.
That's wild. My most rostered pitcher is in this group, and that's John Gray. Who actually, like, I'm surprised is 116th. Like, I thought he was pitching better because he does have I think an ERA like around 4, but he missed a ton of time. And he's got a 3.96 ERA, but he's only got 86 innings and only 4 wins. So at 5
and
now.
It's not a major K to walk guy either. That's not helping him.
So kudos to me for rostering John Gray much more often than Jack Flaherty, even though I talk about Jack Flaherty a lot more. I don't know.
It's all good. Jack Flaherty was big. Trevor Rogers, Zach Lytle's really scuffled of late. Dean Kramer's there, but number 79, pick 285. If you held on to him the whole time, you are the happiest person around. That's when Paul Skeens, 52nd overall, 14th at the position, and gave the field about a 2-month head start to get that there, which is even more impressive. Dealt again on Tuesday night. The biggest question is how far does he go into the season? He pitched a ton of innings last year. I don't see why they wouldn't throw him for a while, and they're contending. So we'll see how that goes. But Paul Skeens has been absolutely amazing.
And I will see that we are not a betting podcast, but I saw somewhere, and I just pulled this up, that props for Paul Skeens, lines, odds to win the NL Cy Young for Skeens came out today in a lot of books. Paul Skeens is plus 400 to win the NL Cy Young, 3rd right now, behind Sale and Zach Wheeler. That's absolutely bonkers to me.
That plus 400 is tempting. It's just if he pitches the rest of the season, I think he's got a great chance.
It's agreed. I mean, agreed. It's just wild to miss 2 months, be a rookie, and
started
the All-Star rookie of the year. But it's Sale, Wheeler, Skeens at 140, 200 plus 400, and then a huge gap. Glasnow is plus 2,000.
I'd actually take Glasnow plus 2,000.
Yeah, given the odds, I'd go Glasnow.
Yeah, if we're just talking odds here, because Skeens could get shut down. I don't think he will be. Sale, like, we love what he's doing, but let's be real. Like, that injury could pop up at any moment. Yeah. Wheeler's battling back issues. Like, he came back and pitched great after missing 2 weeks.
The thing, Glasnow, though, he's only got 8 wins, though. I know, like, that shit matters still. But
hey, Tim Lincecum says, "Hold my beer."
I know. And Felix won it once, I think, with a losing record. So,
Michael Cicchini says, "I think you need 162 innings pitched to qualify." That could make things interesting come into the season. So, we'll see. For at least interesting for Skeens. does he get there, which he should, but you never know if they start to baby him.
Yeah.
That could make things interesting. Final thoughts on the second half, the 41 through 80.
No, I mean, I kind of made that point probably prematurely before we even talked about 61 through 80. That despite you can again nitpick and handpick the guys who broke out, but the hit rate on these mid to late starting pitchers pretty abysmal in 2024, in my opinion.
I'm with you on that one. All right, let's get to some listener questions before we head on out of here. It was fun recapping all of our positions this season. But let's get to Michael Cicchini here. He says, if Lugo ends with a 2.75 ERA, how high do you rank him next year? Top 20, top 30? I'd still have him closer to 30 to 40.
If it's me, it's borderline outside top 30. But again, maybe that's a hole in my game, not trusting the results and focusing maybe too much on the skills. But I don't know. It's been an awesome year, but I don't think Lugo comes close to this again. So I'd go around 30 right now if I was just total wagging it.
Ben Tidd made fun of your color coding system, so I'll just if you need to see that, folks, check it out. But Pablo, Gallen, Webb, and Framber all seem like they should be red. Seems like Bobby Miller and Snell are throwing the scale off. Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved there, but I think it works. And Luzardo and Musgrove, according to Dave Petroziello. So
the scale's based off the top 80. So all these red guys in the 41 through 80 tiers really what's dragging it down.
Michael Cicchini says, cease when playing it safe goes wrong. I have none in any important leagues. Yeah, no, I'm with you there, my friend. Gerald Points has a question for us here. Albert Suarez, thoughts for rest of season? Does he stay in the rotation after the deadline? Is he worth picking up in a 15-team league? Thank you. Well, he left tonight's start hurt.
Yeah, he hurt his leg or something, his shin, I think.
Yeah. So keep an eye on that. I'm not a Suarez guy, honestly, but
right. Like it's, if you just look at the strikeout walk, there's no real like major ground ball tilt for Albert Suarez. I think this is like a mid fours ERA guy who was just run hot. Will he stay in the Baltimore rotation? So much of that, like if Baltimore stands pat, doesn't add starters or only adds one, I think he can. He's got a sub-3 ERA, and I know Baltimore is a smart organization, but like, results do matter when you're Baltimore right now. So I'm actually somewhat confident Suarez stays in the rotation unless his injury is bad. It's just he's not a sub-3 ERA guy. He's not anything close to it. But I think was the question like pick him up in a 15-teamer?
Yeah, a 15-teamer.
He's a streamer for me in a 15-teamer.
Stream only. And he was picked up this week. So he had a 2-start week. So that was a big part of why people added him this week. So just keep that in mind. I'm just not the biggest. He's not an auto start. That's for darn sure for me. Calling My Shot says, which IL returnee do you think will have the highest dollar value from now till the end of the season? Kota Senga, Shane Baz, Robbie Ray, Gavin Williams, honorable mention Bobby Miller. So Senga, Baz, Ray, Williams.
I was gonna waiting for Clayton Kershaw to be mentioned because I would have said him.
He respects me on that one.
Kershaw would be the top one, wouldn't he?
No.
Come on.
He won't pitch enough innings. He won't pitch enough innings.
I mean, and Senga will.
I mean,
all these guys are hurt. Who knows?
I think I take Robbie Ray, honestly.
Yeah, I might too. Though I'll go Senga.
I like what Senga's rehab. Well, both the rehabs finished very strong, so I like both of them to come out looking pretty good.
The big thing with Senga for me is Senga basically pulled his own rehab because things just didn't feel right mechanically. And so I trust now that I don't trust the Mets, but I do trust Senga if he's ready to go. Like, I think he feels ready to go. So I'll go Senga.
And I didn't even bring it up. Christian Scott to the IL with a UCL sprain. So have fun with that. Mets. Yeah. But so Senga, I think it's between Senga and Ray. It just depends, I think, on who figures it out. But I like those options, and a lot of those guys will be available this Sunday in Fab, which will be coming with you guys Thursday night to discuss as usual. But before we head on out of here, Ryan, any final thoughts for the listeners?
Just real quick, let me rattle off some of the breakouts for starting pitchers. So we had Ronel Blanco. So this is anyone drafted outside the top 300. Ronel Blanco is 420. He's the number 7 starting pitcher. Garrett Crochet, the aforementioned number 2 strikeout leader in baseball, number 9 starting pitcher. I would say he is not a top 50 starting pitcher the rest of the way, but Garrett Crochet is a top 10 pitcher right now, drafted 325. Who else we got? Tanner Houck, 310 ADP. He is the number 16 starting pitcher. Luis Heel, 328 ADP at number 17. Reynaldo Lopez, 304 ADP, right at the top 20. Been an excellent season for Reynaldo Lopez. Pretty good year for the reliever turned starter.
So far, so good. We're all waiting for that inning situation to crop up with something
again, and that's like that's why I said what I said about Garrett Crochet.
That's why I can't understand why some of these big time teams are trying to trade for him for the postseason. I'm like, what do you expect out of him?
It makes
what
no sense.
What are you looking for here?
Like if I'm the White Sox, I am absolutely doing that. But
because you get him long term because he's got eligibility left. But what are you getting out of him this year? Is my question.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if there's much to get out of him. So that's pretty much it. Taj Bradley, 383 ADP. He's the number 30 starting pitcher and trending nicely. We have Tyler Anderson, Jake Irvin, Andrew Abbott, Jamison Tyon. That we're starting to get into the 40s at this point. So those last few pitchers have been breakouts. Wanted to give them their fair shout before I say don't wait on starting pitching.
That's where
there have been some breakouts, but that's
where the 12-team concept I like is get too early, couple in the middle, and pepper the back end to stream with, and then see if you hit on them. Like that, it would have worked out beautifully this year because you would have hit on more than you thought probably in that back end. So it doesn't always work out that way, but it feels like there's at least in a 12 because you can stream and whatnot. That would have worked out pretty nicely this year.
That's a really good point in the 12. So like I said, what I said about the, SP 41 through 80, but in a 12-teamer, you've probably ditched a lot of the starting pitchers by now and just trying to find streams or whatever. So that could be the counter to what I said is like, yeah, there's not a lot of, the hit rate is low with those back end starting pitchers, but a lot of those guys aren't on your team anymore. You're streaming them and you're churning those spots on your roster. So I don't know. Lots of time for debate and discussion on that.
And we'll have plenty of that for you in the off season. So that's not a question at Bubba and the Blue Mink. So you got that going for you.
LLC.
Yeah, LLC. We'll figure out the proper terminology there. But it was a fun one. Positions, we'll review them after the end of the season, kind of maybe see where things changed. But some very top heavy positions, some scattered around, and late round value that seems to continue to be the make or break point for a lot of teams, fantasy teams this year and every year. But it really stands out at certain positions. If you waited, you were playing with massive fire. So be interesting. Interesting where it unfolds. But we'll wrap it up there. Make sure you check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I am at BD Intric. We'll be back with you guys Thursday night to preview the Week 19 Fab. Probably talking about all these pitchers coming back and the Nacho and all kinds of fun guys. So it'll be a good one for you guys on Thursday night as usual. So come join us live on the stream or listen to it on Friday, whenever you choose. But until next time, this is Bubba and the Bloom, episode 154. Catch you all later.